Hello, Abigail here with the breakdown for this eclipse in Aries. This is a solar eclipse. It's a very important moment in 2025. Just going to say that. It is on the 29th of March at 6:58 a.m. And it's an eclipse. It's also the final eclipse of eclipse season. We had that Virgo eclipse 2 weeks ago, and this is something else. It's definitely a special moment. It's also a really intense kind of climax of an eclipse. Firstly, it is the final eclipse on the Aries Libra axis, which is a big deal. We've been experiencing this for over 18 months now. Um, it's been a lot, those places in your natal chart, Libra and Aries. This is about that. And any lessons you've been learning along the way, it's also at the degree that Mercury stationed retrograde. It's 1 degree away from where Venus stationed retrograde at 10 degrees. So it's at 9 degrees of Aries. Something that's also really important about this moment is that nifty little Mars that went retrograde. Yeah, that last full moon in Aries, that was a non eclipse in Libra season, the kind of lifting of the veil, the initial veil of that eclipse cycle was at 22 degrees of Mars. And we're back at 22 degrees of Mars on the other side of the Mars retrograde. So there is not just your typical 6-month story, it is a really intense and important story to pay attention to. So be aware of that. Also, that Mars is trine Saturn at 24 degrees in Pisces. So there's this kind of war between the malefics. I do think there is some really beautiful things that are going to come to light and be kind of accomplished during this eclipse. But based on the cards, there is a lot of processing. So I don't want to leave you thinking that this is going to be a walk in the park. It is going to be more of that intense energy we've been experiencing. Venus and Mercury are still retrograde. They're both in Pisces now, um, kind of in the halfway point of their respective retrogrades. But with that trine with Mars, we have this communication between the planets that are known traditionally as malefics. Now, I don't think Mars and Saturn are innately bad or things to be afraid of, but it does add to the quality of what we're facing and looking at here. There's a lot of intensity, a lot of, I think, moments that might feel really hard in the moment, but looking back, we're very going to be very essential. Also, this is a Mars moon. It's spicy, it's salty, it's it's confrontational. So be aware that that's the energy we're dealing with. It's very different from that Virgo full moon. It's also a new moon. So while we're kind of ending things in this, you know, Aries Libra axis of the eclipses, there's also something really important starting here. Not to forget, we also just had the spring equinox. And I do feel like this is like a moment where we're going to get to actually finally feel a bit of the release afterwards in the aftermath of that spring energy, which I feel has just kind of been frenetically trapped in a bottle. At least that's how it feels for me. So that's what's going on. It just it feels like a wild child, which is very Aries. It's not the time to be precious about your feelings. It's not the time to be precious about your words. Now, Mercury is in Pisces, so maybe you're not going to be able to express yourself verbally, but maybe you can express it through music or art or maybe even through silence. Communication can happen in all different ways, and Mercury in Pisces asks us to subvert it. Also, remembering that this is ruled by a Cancer, fallen Mars, it's there is a feeling of like interesting tenderness in a very Martian moment. Um, like kind of spice that we expect in Aries season it's been spicy, but it's it's not the kind of pop off, dance on tables, shake your butt kind of spice. It's very angsty. It's very repressed, but then like bombastic when it finally releases. So, yeah, especially after pulling the cards, this is a wild card. I want you to be prepared. Also, the day after, Neptune goes into Aries. So, Neptune is right on this kind of pinch point, which while it's not connected by degree or anything to that, that moment, it is adding to this kind of sense of like everything coming to a climax, which I think that bubble's going to pop. And then in the weeks following, especially as Mercury stations direct on the 7th and Venus stations direct on the 12th, we'll slowly feel it. But I feel like even up until the Libra full moon, we're going to be in this kind of really intense energy that, yes, it'll lessen as it moves forward, but it's going to be spicy. Um, and also very eclipsy. You know, my thing with eclipses is that I don't really see them as good or bad, but it's a lot all at once all the time. And so we're in for more of the same as we head towards this eclipse. Emotions are being heightened, things are being brought to a head. Situations that you might have been like, I'm okay with this, are absolutely not okay right now. And that's okay, that they need to not be okay right now. You need to accept the change that the universe is putting on you. Um, let your emotions guide you. Aries is about that kind of initiation and that spark of feeling and that spark of life. It's time to pop off. It's time to let your emotions be felt. Now, yeah, should you be mean? No. But straightforward, honest. I hate the fact that in modern society, a way a lot of mean people have phrased honesty makes it seem like honesty is mean. The truth might hurt, but the truth isn't mean. The truth might be hard to take, but the truth isn't vindictive. So be honest. Say what you need to say. May it not come out the way you want because of the Mercury retrograde? Who knows? But you need to do what you need to do to take care of this. Another important point is that Mars is in a square with Chiron, and like it's important. I find Chiron deeply important. Not all astrologers do. It's an asteroid. Um, but then I drew the cards and I was like, oh yes, that square with Chiron gonna be tingling. So this is also about wounds and healing, and also the process of that Mars retrograde. A lot of what was processed through that Mars retrograde as it moves through the shadow period, now that it's direct, is going to come to play in this moment. So, if it was easy for you, or if it didn't seem to shake up too much, it could go either way. But if it was a lot, you're going to be experiencing more of that. Um, so buckle up, be ready. Um, Eclipses are nothing to fear. Just conserve your energy where you need to conserve it. Say what you need to say, but don't feel the need to justify, to put in context. Something I wrote on my Instagram story the other day is like, this is not the time to care about what your audience is going to think of you. Now is not the time to care about how you're going to be received. It is important to speak your truth. It's important to be honest with your needs, because the universe is trying to redirect through the eclipses, to redirect you to a path where your needs are met, to a path where you are getting what you need, where the things that are no longer supportive of you, or the things that maybe you weren't aware, some maybe old things that have crept in, or maybe you've lost a sense of self. These eclipses are trying to bring that back into balance, to bring you to a place of rightness with self, to bring you into a moment where you feel good and supported and powerful in your life, where you have agency. And I really do think that this eclipse is going to highlight where you have lost agency, where you have maybe, and it doesn't have to be in an abusive situation, but maybe you have given up some agency, even in something that seems healthy. And you need to just be like, hey, I kind of need some of that back. That's mine. Um, so check your agency this eclipse. And as always, if you feel like you want to do a ritual, do whatever you need to do. But I find that eclipses work best when you let them do what they want to do, because you don't have much energy anyways. So that is my eclipse advice. It's going to be a lot. There's tons of stuff at play. It's not just this eclipse. It's Neptune entering into Aries. The fact that those like 10 degrees are going to have like constant activity from now, with a few breaks with the retrogrades of Saturn and Neptune from now until, into 2026, and then later, because Neptune has a really long cycle and Saturn's going to go back and forth over those early degrees a couple times. So this is a really, even if you don't have any planets there, this is a really big like point in your chart in 2025 and 2026, but especially if you have planets here. So much is happening. Just be aware. And then we're going to move into the cards, which I was like, yes, there is some beautiful gift. And I still believe that. I still believe that there is something special and beautiful in this eclipse. There are gems, but the gems feel like they might be surrounded in hot lava right now. So we start off with this Nine of Swords, which is very much about the frame of mind of you, the people in your life. Um, when the energy is this heightened, whether it is bad or good, it often leads to anxiety and rumination and fear and thoughts of how do I get out of this? Um, so I think you don't have to give in to thoughts of despair. You don't need to give in to anxiety or believe it. But I do think you need to recognize it. You do need to be like, yeah, this is a lot. I've talked to a lot of people. It's funny. And they're like, the eclipses aren't affecting me. I'm doing great. And that's fine. It's also very Aries of them, very Mars ruled. Um, and then later I'll hear them talk to someone else, and someone will be like, "How are you doing?" They're like, I'm, I'm, it's going. It's not okay. It's not fine. It is a lot. Everything is shit. There's nothing wrong with you feeling the energy with the collective. And if you're not, that's fine. This doesn't apply to you. But if you are in this situation, there's no need to bravado your way out. Aries have good cries all the time. In fact, Aries are healthier when they cry. Most of us are. It's okay to feel like this, but you're going to be less overwhelmed if you just allow yourself to be in this state, to allow yourself to just be like, you know what, this is where I am today. And not to push yourself. Give yourself the space and the time that you need when and how you can. And then this is what made me think we really need to talk about Chiron. There are wounds coming up. We need to heal. We need to recognize where we have been hurt. And I think specifically with this moment and with how long Chiron has been in Aries, I don't know that we're getting hurt by people who are cruel anymore. I think we're getting hurt by people we love, whether it's through lack of communication or an inability to connect or both of you being exhausted. I think this moon is a lot about the people you love who do harmful things and holding them accountable and finding a way forward. Um, and finding a way for you to both be your unique self and both have your unique responses and your unique needs while not infringing on the other person's. This is about healing from the wounds of love. I don't think it's completely about, now, obviously, the wounds of love are often tied to the wounds of cruelty and selfishness and avarice and all those things that cruel people do. So you might have to backtrack. You might have to go investigate why you're being triggered. But healthy relationships have space for conflict. Healthy relationships have space for holding each other accountable. Healthy relationships are not easy or constantly good, but there is the space for growth and there is the space to hold each other accountable in a loving and supportive way. And I think this is what this moment might be. It might not be confronting someone who is a bully. It might be confronting someone who you love who is taking away your ability to make choices. And that's a hard conversation to have. Or someone you love who is trying to protect you, and by doing that, they take away your innate rights as a human. Or someone who's not communicating clearly because they don't want to hurt your feelings, or you're that person who doesn't want to hurt someone's feelings. It's not the time for that. If that person loves you, if you love them, you will find a way to work through whatever difficulty you're in, but you have to face it. You have to face that wound in this eclipse. And then we have our fun little Five of Swords. Not everyone has good intentions. Make sure you're talking about a loving relationship. Yeah. Also, it's a time to pick and choose your battles. You might have some really pivotal big battles you need to fight. Maybe let the smaller, less pivotal ones go. Maybe approach those on the other side of the Mercury retrograde. So pick your battles. Um, Trust the universe will help you pick your words because that's the only way you're getting through it with Mercury and Pisces. um, but yeah, pick your battles. Also recognize, you know, that there is a possibility that if you have to say what you have to say, that some people will want distance, and that's fine. And if they want distance, it's your job to honor their agency and allow them to do what they need to do. And I think you'll be surprised. I think with the energy the way it is, I think it'll be received better than you think. And even if it's not, um, and I said this in another video, and saying this in another video was in one of the tarot scopes. It made me do something um, like a week ago in the middle of the eclipse portal, where I said, I think it was a Scorpio's maybe. I said, we often ask, what is the cost of my honesty? But I want you to ask yourself, what is the cost if you are not honest with the people you care about? Or if you're not honest with people who are actively hurting you, whether they're someone you care about or not. And then we have the Five of Pentacles. Disappointment, my friends. Disappointment, things not working out the way we want. These eclipses are cutting off things that aren't working. Saturn, trine Mars, is cutting off things that aren't working. The things that are working are working. Mars and Saturn are getting them done. The things that aren't working are not going to last, and you can feel them crumbling. And it's important to not give up hope, to not completely succumb to this, although this moment is going to happen, but to just recognize that you have been disappointed, that things you've invested in, things you've cared about, things you've poured your resources in haven't worked out the way you wanted them to. And that can include relationships, jobs, education, whatever. It might be the time, it may or may not be parting of the ways. I don't know. That is for you to decide. But you do have to face it. You do need to sit in that disappointment and to grieve that loss. And maybe you need to also reach out for help to someone. But you, in the very least, have to recognize that you have been disappointed. And maybe that is something that can be fixed. Maybe that if it's a relationship, it's something that can be talked about. But maybe it's also cutting your losses and accepting that this is just how things are. And I will say, I was super thrilled about the last card because we have all these kind of very intense, I don't like to call them bad, but they are downers. We do end on the bottom of the deck with the Nine of Pentacles. All of this processing, this recognizing, this need to express and to reclaim our autonomy and our agency, it's going to lead to Nine of Pentacles. And the Nine of Pentacles is not alone. This person has a dinner party to go to. This person has friends to go on a picnic with. But they're able to enjoy and appreciate their labor and to take downtime and to celebrate. And all of us are in a different phase. Maybe you've already experienced all of this through this eclipse portal and you are here at the Nine of Pentacles on the night of this solar eclipse, or the morning as it is. And you're like, I have reached my Nine of Pentacles. That is beautiful and wonderful. But maybe you're me and a lot of people I know, and you're experiencing the disappointment, the wounding, the recognition of where you've been hurt, and also where maybe you've been hurt by people you care about. And you're not quite here yet. Know that this is the future for you, that this is coming, and that because we're looking at a bunch of minor arcana, it's coming very quickly. It's not that far away. So hang on if you're here, celebrate if you're here, and if you're in some other phase, know that some combination of this is either on the way for you or right in your rearview mirror. So, my loves, this is my message. When you get this moment, whether it is now, whether it is later, enjoy it. Take that time to enjoy your labor and your effort, to enjoy the things you invested in, the relationships you have cared about. And in my typical advice for eclipses, release what you can release. If the eclipse is taking something from you, let it go. Maybe it's taking it all the way. Maybe it's just asking for you to take your little fingies off so it can fix it and help you make it better. Right? Not all eclipse stories are stories of perpetual loss, but all eclipse stories require us to release control because the universe is realigning things. And if we have our little fingers on it, we're not going to let them realign it now, are we? Or we're going to get our fingers pinched, which would not be fun. Anyways, my loves, that is my kind of rundown, breakdown, translation of the energy of this eclipse. None of this is simple. There's so many dynamic things happening. In the very least, allow yourself to rest. Allow yourself to enjoy the spring. Allow yourself to take a break. Allow yourself to Knight of Pentacles it, maybe when you're not feeling very Knight of Pentacles. But I love you all. I wish you a blessed eclipse in Aries. And I will see you in a different space and time.